once you take these bad boys from the pot of boiling water and you put them on into the pan and saute them with a little bit of butter, your hands get slippery. Hey, it's Dean Gozowsky, and today I'd like to share a recipe that was passed on from my grandmother who recently passed. But the thing is that this lady cooked for the Pope. She's got quite the history, and she was in my world, the pinnacle of cooking success. I mean, for crying out loud, you cook for the Pope. I mean, that means something, right? So here's this pierogi recipe that I'm going to go ahead and lay out for you today. I'm not going to get into the mixing of the dough or stuff like that, but I will show you how to actually pinch these things, pack them full, and provide all kinds of holiday goodness for you and your family and your loved ones. The quick recipe for this pierogi dough is simply this: 4 cups of flour, 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of whole milk, 1 large egg, and a dash of salt. Why I'm holding the fork in the first place is because I just like forks, right? As you're mixing up this dough, one of the things that you learn as you're making dozens and dozens of pierogies is that as you're mixing in that bowl with that flour, it starts to stick to your fingers and all that stuff, and then you're like, oh, it's gross, and like, do yourself a favor and mix with a fork, okay? And as you just kind of pack it on in, it just makes your life so much easier. That's the #1 tip that you got to learn about making pierogies. Second, after you're done mixing the pierogi dough, this is kind of what you're going to get here. Now, as you see here, there's a bit of a consistency that you can see, and that's what you want. So you peel yourself off a little bit, and you're going to start rolling this bad boy out. I like to pack these pierogies fat and make much larger circles here, and this is what you end up with, something that make sure you cut the dough real easy, real good, because otherwise you're going to get stuff like that. You got to apply a lot of pressure. So something like that doesn't need to be perfect because of how we're going to roll these things out. So if that's what we're looking at right there, make sure your sleeves are pulled up. I'm not even sure why I'm wearing this tracksuit in the first place. So rolling out these pierogies, here's kind of what you're looking at. It's something that covers over your palm. So now as we're beginning to pack these pierogies, I got a special treat for you. My lovely assistant, Risa. Come on over, kiddo. This is actually Risa's first cooking show, and she's actually a pierogi rolling pro. And Risa, tell us what your favorite part is about rolling pierogies.
Fork printing them.
You like the fork print? What is that? What on God's green earth is that? You're going to show us. Okay. So what you're doing is you're taking a fork and you kind of pierce the edges. Okay, and so you're going to make sure that these things don't open up when we put them into the boiling pot.
Yes.
Okay. There you go. Now show the camera. Pick it up and show the camera for us. Okay. How about this guy down here? All right, we got any others you're going to go ahead and do? I'm going to roll out another one here while you fork print that one, okay? This is how the production line goes. So you got multiple kids, you train them up on how to do pierogies, and I'm telling you, each person's going to typically eat 3 to 4, maybe 8 pierogies, depending on how big they are. Good work. Thank you very much for your help. Let's now that we've got these going here, I'm not going to wrap any more of these pierogies because I'm going to show you the next steps that we have to get to. So first, what you're going to need is a boiling pot of water after you've rolled your batch. Now, typically this is running like a production line, so you got one person on the pot. Don't read into that, Michigan. And you got the frying pan, and you've got somebody rolling out the pierogies and pinching them, and doing the fork prints, right? So then you take these bad boys and you're going to run on over into the pot of boiling water. I'll show you that next. All right, so here's the key. When you're dropping these pierogi into a pot of boiling water, just kind of set them in nicely, and make sure that your water is a roll and boil. That way, when you put pierogi into the pot, it's it's going to cool it down and it's going to bring you out of a boil. So you want it a good hot consistency. Then once these guys start to float just a little bit, you can see you want to make sure that they don't stick down to the bottom as well. Once they start to stand up on their own, you come on out, the color doesn't really change. Then at that point, once they're all floating, you transfer them over to the hot frying pan. And that's a good noise. Now, like I said before, we really like butter. Get yourself a little bit of a slab and be generous with it. All right, this is good stuff. Don't listen to those so-called experts that tell you butter is bad for you. The brain is 70+% fat. Don't worry about it. And just let them sit there. Wait for your other guys to boil. And then once they're looking like that, if you like them more brown, let them sit in there for a little bit longer. But they should be heated throughout. And then it's time to take them on out. Take a look at those. If it's one thing I learned from my grandma is that presentation is key. Once you take these bad boys from the pot of boiling water and you put them on into the pan and saute them with a little bit of butter, your hands get slippery. And then you can't cut your steak or your pierogi. Then you take yourself a nice little bite. I tell you what, they're delicious anywhere you come from. So that's your pierogi recipe that I'm passing along to you from my grandma. God bless you and Merry Christmas. It's a good pierogi.